Out of next week's advertised 4-day water supply disruption, residents in some suburbs of Accra are having to deal with an acute water shortage. The Ghana Water Company explains this is because of ongoing works to mitigate the impact of the planned disruption. Joy News' Dorcas Ankuma reports the situation has forced affected residents to go in search of water wherever it could be found, including boreholes.
The search for water has been a daunting task for the past 3 days, as residents in affected areas have had to trek for long distances for the utility. Simon, a Kotobabi resident, says after several hours he chanced upon this borehole at Kokomlemle and joined others like him also searching for water.
First, 3,000 and I before 4,000.
Simon is not alone. Abna Benewa and several others also came all the way from Circle PNT to get water too. They tell Joy News the borehole water will be used for other purposes other than drinking and cooking.
4 days in the water pipe, you got to appear to such as Bakokane and Suyen. Yes, so Mumbia pipe and Sian Yanian Ble.
Sister, I pensio that senior man de Bia Dryena. Into a mumma, a ban your mumbia so baby my na a beam for baby not being found.
The borehole attendant, meanwhile, has his own worries.
We have connected the borehole to electricity, so if the light goes off, the water will stop flowing.
Christiana Tieku, who operates a door-to-door laundry service, tells me she has been unable to do any business due to the water situation. Various eating joints have also been seriously affected by the shortage. Most of the food vendors who spoke off camera said they have had to rely on sachet water to prepare their food and have therefore been unable to cook as much as they usually do. Communications manager of the Ghana Water Company, Stanley Mate, in a phone interview with Joy News, explains the repair works should be completed by Thursday.
This job that we are doing on the N1 highway is supposed to improve on the situation before Pong is shut down on Monday. Okay, it is a line that we are repairing so that we can push more water from the western part of Accra to the eastern part of Accra, specifically to our Congo reservoir for onward distribution within the eastern part of Accra. This current project that we are undertaking on the N1 highway is part of the measures because it will enable us pump more water from the western part of Accra to the eastern part of Accra in our Congo reservoir for onward distribution within the eastern part of Accra. So this is one of the measures.
Dorcas Ankuma, Joy News, Accra.
All right, my colleague Tonamse has been on a trip to the Weja Waterworks with the Minister for Water Resources, Works and Housing to assess the actual situation on the ground. Good evening to you, Tonam. What did you find out?
You know, the plant, the transmission line, it serves over 50 communities around Weja and its environs, and so it shut down. It was shut down on Sunday because it broke down, and so they've been working on it since Monday morning. So when we went there, went to ascertain the situation, and when we spoke to some of the engineers and actually the acting managing director of the Ghana Water Company, he says the acute water situation will worsen if the transmission line at Weja is not fixed before we shut down the transmission line. And so that was what they were working on.
Okay, so let me understand something. There's an acute water shortage and it is blamed on this transmission line that's broken or being fixed?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And how long are they saying it's going to take them to do this?
Well, they said they started on Monday morning, and they're hoping by the end of tomorrow they will be done working on that transmission line. And you know, because so as it is, you have residents moving around with their yellow gallons and some scooping water from a well that is not very far from the transmission line. And so they're saying that by close of tomorrow, they are going to make sure that, other communities around Weija and its environs get water.
And what did the minister have to say about it?
The minister was assuring us, as usual, that they're hoping that by tomorrow they'll fix the situation while we wait for the shutdown on Monday. But he was appealing generally to the general public. He said it is not possible to easily fix the acute water shortage situation in Accra, but we should, bear with the ministry and government as they try to look at short-term plans to resolve the situation.
What's the first SOT? Who's that?
That is.
Right, so who are some of the officials you've been speaking to?
All right, so I spoke to the acting general manager of the Ghana Water Company, Koku Dovlo, who is telling us how severe it will be if we don't solve that, we don't fix that line before.
Let's hear.
Yeah.
It is true that this is the main transmission line from Weija. It is 40 inches in diameter, and apart from its big size, it fits into other transmission lines that serve the western and the central parts of Accra, as well as the northern parts of Accra. Directly to your question, if we don't fix this before the shutdown plan for on Monday, certainly we will have to revise our notes. We've been working on this pipeline since Monday morning. We worked throughout the whole of the night yesterday night, and we continue working up to this point in time. We are very hopeful that by early tomorrow morning, this line will be fixed and will resume some production at Weija, and then the western central parts of Accra will start getting some water.
Right, so the minister was also there. I understand. What did he also ask?
He was appealing generally. What can you do under the circumstance? People are complaining everywhere. So all he was doing was appealing to the general public to bear with the ministry and government as it tries to work on the water situation.
I guess we have all seen the magnitude of work that needs to be done to fix up the line. We can only plead with the public to bear with us. It is not a situation that we wanted to happen, which has happened. And because we are working on it and there's the assurance that it will be fixed by tomorrow, we'll plead with the public to bear with us. We would also, in view of this one, look at the line so that we don't have any such situation occurring in any other part of the city of Accra.
Well, that was the Minister for Water Resources, Works and Housing, and on that trip there where Etonamse also accompanied them. Meanwhile, the Ghana Grid Company Limited has announced the current energy situation will get worse before it gets better. According to a statement from Gridco's Public Relations Unit, the company has had to shut down another generator at Abuaze for repair works. The emergency shutdown has reduced the power available to serve consumers in the country. The statement further notes that the non-availability of this additional generator has worsened the power supply deficit, adding Gridco will have to manage the load carefully to avoid a total shutdown of the system. The repair works are expected to be completed by Sunday, February 23, 2014. Power will therefore be curtailed during peak periods until the VRA generator is restored. The public is therefore encouraged to conserve electricity, the statement concludes. In other news, some residents of Osei Kojo, whose homes were recently demolished in an exercise by the Tema Development Corporation, have vowed to stay put until the courts decide on their dispute. The residents who have had some run-ins with some operatives of national security who have been supervising the demolition exercise, with the latest clash Tuesday resulting in some injuries.
Although most of the residents have left the area, some diehards are refusing to leave, even in the face of what they describe as continuous harassment by armed security officers at both night and day.
We gathered here, then before we could see, the army and the police were here with their bulldozers, pulling all the trees that we used to sit or sleep under it. Then we say, why? We are waiting for a visitor. Why are you people doing this? They too, they did not understand. We also don't have that patience. And then it rises into different issues, whereby they started beating our men and then firing. This is the bullet that was given to me as a rep of the chief. A live bullet. Can someone testify that this is a rubber bullet?
Spokesperson for the affected residents say they suspect a foul play.
What a government! What a government! Tyrannic government that does not have pity for his members or a citizen. Up to now, John Mama was unable to talk. Why? He's beside the scene. He's behind the scene. He should speak. I am challenging him that if he doesn't have a hand in it, he should speak. Who is he? We voted him into power. We voted him in power. We have the right. We are not going to use ammunition. We are not going to use any gun, but we will use our thumbprint to withdraw him from the seat. Who is he? I pity him as a government.
Others also expressed disappointment at the Parliamentary Select Committee for not showing up as communicated on Tuesday.
I do not understand how Parliamentary Select Committee coming to meet people who are anxious to meet them after 3 or 4 weeks of being displaced. Then a national security officer will call and say the place is safe. It's not safe. How was it not safe? Then what about those of us who have no guns? If it is not, it was not safe for the parliamentarians to be here, then it should dawn on them that it was very, 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 very unsafe for those who are here waiting to meet them. And I was highly disappointed that the Select Committee did not show up. I do not think I have any more trust in whatever we may be calling on them for.
Children in the community who have also been affected are currently not in school and have been left at the mercy of the weather. Matilda Pamaga for Joy News.
The Tema Development Corporation has meanwhile dissociated itself from the Tuesday clearance of debris at Osei Kojo, where homes were recently demolished. Answering questions from the Select Committee on Works and Housing, the Managing Director denied claims by the MP for the area that over 600 houses were pulled down, putting the number down to 65.
A member of the committee, Emmanuel Kwesi-Bajra, who is also a professional surveyor, was concerned about the alleged involvement of the TDC in the clearance of the demolition site on Tuesday. But this, the Managing Director said, was not done by the TDC.
If we bring an evidence that a truckload has started cutting away the debris from the site, what will be your reaction?
It will not be done by us. It's not TDC that is doing it. It's not TDC that is doing it.
So the main issue is as to whether we can ascertain the number that has been demolished so far. If there is any fact-finding visit to the place, is it possible?
We've been using the gross area, fine. But if you want to go and count the demolished structures, then it might, I don't know whether it is possible to do that. You may not be, it's not possible for you to get.
Other members of the committee, Titus Glover and former Sector Minister E.T. Mensah, supported the TDC action.
The motorway is a den for robbers. A lot of people have been robbed on the motorway in broad daylight. And that area is a den for these armed robbers. We live with these robbers in the area and nobody seems to care about it. I want to appeal to this committee. We need to commend the corporation. We need to support the institutions of state. If you do the wrong thing, you do the right thing, and you'll be badged by the public. Tomorrow, posterity is going to judge you for saving the people of this country.
What is happening now is only, in discipline. In the past, our people were more disciplined than we were. In those days, nobody dared move into any place to develop without permit. The law is quite clear. When we started enforcing the laws in Accra, there was only one double road in Accra. We want to go through the pain to pave the way. Otherwise, if you hadn't done it, it would have been difficult. And that is exactly what is being done. And our friends in the media will beg you, let's get involved.
The committee was scheduled to visit the site on Tuesday, February 18. The same time the alleged clearance of the debris went on, but were asked by the leadership to hold on. The chairman indicated the committee is still bent on visiting the site and expressed his disappointment on the failure of the MP of the area to join the meeting.
My serious disappointment in the inability of the Member of Parliament for the area to be with us, because I thought information was given to sent to her, and we thought she would join us to cross-examine. Unfortunately, she's not here, but I think we are making a headway. The activities there must in a way slow down, so that as soon as we get there, we can be able to ascertain the facts.
The TDC MD also answered questions posed by the Member of Parliament for the area, Irina Toshi, in her statement on the floor of the House a couple of weeks ago.
The International Service for the Acquisition of Agri-Biotech Applications, ISAR, is urging those waging war against the introduction of genetically modified organisms to reconsider their positions. Speaking at the 2014 meeting of the American Association for the Advancement of Science in Chicago, the director of the Africa office, Dr. Margaret Karembu, cited strides by some countries in Africa to buttress her point. Sudan and Burkina Faso, according to her, have seen a sharp increase in the cultivation of cotton, for instance, in the last few years by adopting the technology.
Speaking to Joy News at the 2014 meeting of the American Association for the Advancement of Science in Chicago, the director of the Africa office of the ISAR, Dr. Margaret Karembu, indicated the future of GMOs in Africa looks promising. Though the GM technology continues to face stiff opposition on the continent, the report suggests confined field trials in Cameroon, Egypt, Ghana, Kenya, Malawi, Nigeria and Uganda show remarkable progress prior to approval for commercialization. These 7 countries have been testing various GM crops ranging from wilt disease-resistant banana, nitrogen-efficient rice to pest-resistant cowpea. Dr. Margaret Karembu said improving these crops is necessary to ensure food security. She indicated allegations that adoption of GMOs will allow multinational companies to take over Africa's seed market to the detriment of smallholder rural farmers were unfounded. The Water Efficient Maize for Africa project, according to Dr. Karembu, is on track to deliver the first GM drought-tolerant maize in 2017. The report, however, cites the non-availability of science-based regulatory systems as a major hindrance to adoption of GM crops on the continent. So far, South Africa, Burkina Faso and Sudan remain the only countries that have commercialized GM crops in Africa.
South Africa grew biotech cotton, maize and soybean in a combined acreage of 2.85 million hectares. Burkina Faso had the second largest area under biotech crops in the continent. The country grew a total of 474,000 hectares. This is a sharp increase from the first initial acreage of 8,500 hectares in 2008 when the first commercial crop was grown in the country. Sudan grew 61,000 hectares, up from the 20,000 hectares that the country grew during its first year of commercialization in 2012. This is a threefold increase in adoption of biotech cotton.
As of 2013, over 175 million hectares of GM crops have been grown by 27 countries globally, according to the report. 19 developing countries have produced 54%, while 8 industrial countries grew 46%. Adelaide Arthur's report.
We have more stories coming up after the break. Don't go away. This year's district-level elections cannot be held in October as originally planned. Chairman of the Electoral Commission, Kwejo Afari-Jang, when he appeared before Parliament's Public Accounts Committee, blamed the inability to hold the election as planned on a delay in the release of funds. He says a new date is yet to be fixed.
According to Dr. Afari-Jang, elections are time-bound and that a delay in the release of funds automatically affects the election calendar. He explained even though the district-level election process was supposed to have commenced in January 2014, the Commission received the funds only recently.
I can assure you that if we receive timely releases of the funds, there will be no taught elections. Elections are time-bound, and the activities are time-bound. All right? You have to do one thing before it's followed by the other. If you don't do registration, you don't finish registration, you can't do nomination, you can't, and so forth. Right? And see, we do very beautiful timelines, but just one slip in release disrupts the entire system. And that's why we started saying that our first program anticipated that we would be able to start off in January. You know, the monies were only recently released, so we are now making the beginning. So the end period will also be affected. As for the what you heard over the radio, it was a friendly chat.
The State Housing Company Limited, National Commission for Civic Education and State Enterprise Audit Corporation also appeared before the committee.
The New Patriotic Party has cleared 5 aspirants who were originally disqualified from contesting various national executive positions in the upcoming elections. The 5 are Fred Amankwa Safo, Hajia Fatima, and Philomena Sewa Akoto, who are all vying for vice chairmanship positions, Kamal Abdullahi, who was contesting for Nasara coordinator, and Charles Edu Jemfi, aspiring national youth organizer. The 5 were initially disqualified for various lapses before and during the voting. Joy News' Joseph Upuku-Gakpo, who has been following the beat on the NPP's upcoming national executive elections, however, says the party is yet to take a decision on Paul Afoko, who has imprisonment claims against him. The committee is said to be still probing documents and petitions brought against Paul Afoko and will make a declaration once the investigations are over. While still investigating the claims against Afoko, the vetting committee has slated Monday, February 24, 2014 for balloting for all the candidates. There will, however, be no balloting for the chairmanship position until the Paul Afoko controversy has been sorted. The NPP is to elect new executives on April 12, 2014 ahead of the 2016 elections. Meanwhile, a leading member of the Friends of Afoko in the Brunahafo region, Nanaya Boadu, has chided the New Patriotic Party's vetting committee for suspending Paul Afoko's vetting. Nanaya Boadu referred to the committee's decision as an attempt to kick him out of the party's national chairmanship race. Correspondent Nestor Kafuya-Joma spoke to him in Sunyani.
We are saying that the vetting committee and the petitioners want to hijack the party because they know very well when Paul Afoko comes, a few people who are hijacking the party and they don't have a position at the party's office will not have their way through. And that is why they are doing all this. So we are saying that if tomorrow comes and they deny Paul Afoko's vetting, the Friends of Paul Afoko and the concerned communication group within the MPP party are going to stand against that decision, take blackouts throughout the country, and make noise. And if possible, if our case are not being heard, we don't have anything to do but to defect from MPP to NDC.
Government is currently seeking a public-private partnership with the World Bank to get the country a flag carrier. Minister of Transport Jifativa, however, could not give any definite timelines as to when negotiations on the deal would end, but was hopeful of a deal that would make the airline a force to reckon with.
At the launch of the first African Air Expo Fair in Accra, Transport Minister Jifativa said consultations with the World Bank to get the country a national airline started as far back as last year.
The national carrier, we are going through a process. Because it's a PPP, we are channeling through the Minister of Finance. We advertised last year, as you recollect, and we received some proposals which were evaluated. This was submitted to World Bank for no objection, which they have granted. We are expecting the final no objection from the World Bank for the engagement of the transactional advisor, so it's ongoing.
Meanwhile, the first African Air Expo Fair to be held in October this year is expected to attract investments estimated at over $1 billion in the continent and also boost the West African sub-region's aviation industry.
The show will provide a fruitful forum from which stakeholders can interact, especially with prospective investors in the achievement of government policy of public-private partnership in the development of our aviation infrastructure and services. It will also ensure that stakeholders are in tune with the dynamics of the industry, where they can share their experiences, findings, and new investments, among others. The objective of this event, among others, is in hosting this event is to create the awareness within Africa and the global aviation that investment in Ghana in whatever form will be of great benefit to Ghana as well as the investor.
The fair is in consultation with the International Center for Excellence of Abu Dhabi, who has been the domain of aviation human capital development in the Middle East for over 5 years now. Major international airlines, including Lufthansa, British Airways, Air Namibia, Emirates Airlines, and Delta Airlines, are expected to participate in the fair. Funding for the fair, according to Transport Minister Chifa Ativo, will be sourced from the private sector and not from government coffers. It will cost an estimated $3 million to host the first African Air Expo Fair in the country, and Ghana is expected to pay $1 million as its contribution to the program, whilst the Abu Dhabi Center for Excellence handles the rest of the money.
Armed robbers attacked 2 passenger buses on the Boase-Kumasi Road in the early hours of Tuesday. A 25-year-old man, Enoch Gumado, was shot in the process by one of the robbers and is currently receiving medical treatment at the Komfanochi Teaching Hospital. The Boase police has arrested 2 of the suspected armed robbers who are currently in custody pending investigation. Mahmoud Mohamed Nuruddin filed this report.
The suspects were identified as Isaac Opoku Mensah, 22, and Kojo Abuaji, 20, while the rest are on the run. Obuasi Divisional Crime Officer DSP Kwabna Otoe Champon told Joy News the suspects, fully armed, blocked a section of the road and robbed the passengers on board buses on that road. Kwabna Otoe Champon said the robbers escaped with money and personal belongings of the victims before the police arrived at the scene. According to him, the robbers subsequently fled into the bush. With the support of local people, the 2 suspects were arrested.
Reached there, apparently the robbers had fled. They were numbering about 8, according to the interview that we did with some of the victims. So they had blocked the road between here village and Mount 14 village, and then they succeeded in robbing passengers on board 2 vehicles, Mercedes-Benz bus and the 207 bus. And according to the victims, they were robbed hundreds of Ghana cedis, mobile phones and other valuables.
The crime officer intimated that the police also intercepted the pickup vehicle used by the robbers for the operation, 1 HP laptop, 3 pump-action guns, 1 mini clip, a Sony Walkman, a video clip, Samsung mobile phone, 5 AA cartridges, 1 empty shell cartridge and a passport were retrieved from them. Mahmoud Mohammed Nuruddin's report.
Up next we bring you business news.
If you are abreast with business news, I'm Abigail Adumakwenchi. Now, a task force comprising officials of the Economic and Organized Crime Office will from next Monday move out to halt the quotation of goods and services in foreign currencies in the country. According to the office, they would be carrying out the inspection on hotels, forest bureaus and other institutions. For security analyst Dr. Kwesianin says he has issues with IOCO enforcing the directive. Meanwhile, IOCO would from March 3 this year start arresting companies and individuals that have failed to meet their tax obligations. According to the office, they are taking this action after the expiration of the amnesty given to defaulters over the year. According to a statement from the unit, the initial exercise would cover rent tax, non-registration and failure to collect VAT. Away from that, discussions at a policy forum organized by the Institute of Economic Affairs went home disgruntled and disappointed at the turn-off event following the failure to arrive at a consensus. The cedi crisis implications and way forward forum, which was intended to provide solutions to redeem the Ghana cedi from further depreciation, was reduced to another political blame and defend game when representatives of the two major parties, NDC and MPP, took turns to blame and defend their political positions. Former Minister of State at the Finance Ministry, Dr. Osei, represented the opposition, while Fifi Kwete spoke on behalf of government.
It goes into difficulty. That difficulty is coming necessarily because there is economic mismanagement. And I'm going to preface that by just doing a quick rundown of going through a certain historical analysis of our performance as a country vis-a-vis the city. I'm not going to go too far back. Now, in the year 1999, not to go too far back, in the year 1999, the cedi for the whole of that year depreciated about 8%. In the year 2000, in fact, the very first month of the year 2000, the depreciation of the currency was about 2.5%.
Depreciation of the Ghanaian economy and the associated depreciation of the local currency has been with us for a very long time, as you noted. It's been with every government that I know of. But it only becomes topical when the rate of depreciation becomes intolerable for most of us, and all stakeholders, including my good friends from the Bank of Ghana, begin to resort to what I call panic behavior. Dr. Amoa is my friend from the Bank of Ghana. I'm not directing this at him. I'm directed at his institution. As a personal friend, we may agree to disagree, but it's okay. Chairman, it's generally accepted by all of us that the long-term fundamental causes of the currency crisis in Ghana relates principally to an imbalance between our production and consumption patterns. That is fundamental.
Other experts together and try to figure out a way forward, because the Bank of Ghana measures would not solve the fundamental problem. You know, we have huge budget deficits, we have huge debts, we have huge foreign debts as well as domestic debts, and these things would all add up to and cause the depreciation to continue going on. This is not new. It's been going on since 1961. So obviously we're not solving the fundamental or the underlying causes, and that's what we need to work towards. I think we'll create another forum to see if we can solicit ideas on that. Oh, maybe just after our 57 years of existence as Ghana. You know, we celebrate our independence. When is it? It's March 6th, and we would be 56, I believe. Hopefully, we would then have another forum to look at 56 years of economic development. Have we done well or have we not? We will look at that.
Well, we'll be bringing you more on the city, but away from that, management of Intercity STC Company Limited is still crying for recapitalization of the company so it can compete effectively in the sector. Its new head of operations, Victor Ananifrimpong, has told Joy News the company is currently running with only 20 buses, 80 short of the minimum it requires to operate profitably. This, he says, requires huge capital injection. The woes of the once vibrant Intercity STC Company Limited seem unending in spite of several calls to overhaul and bring it back to its feet. The company has a fleet of 39 buses, but only 20 are roadworthy. The remaining are all faulty. Plying routes such as Tamale, Aflao, Aviation, Cotonou, among others, the company requires between 50 to 100 buses to operate at its optimum. But that requires huge sums of money, which the company cannot boast of now.
The government can give STC the last chance, all right, and give us a fleet, minimum about 50 Scania, which is our choice. And I can assure you that we would, based upon performance agreements, they give you a performance contract. 2 years, you perform. If you don't perform, you go. We also will sign additional performance with that. So if you achieve a target, because you need buses to run. You are the manager of so you need, how many buses you need? I give you these buses. I'm giving you a target. If you are unable to achieve it, I'm giving you first quarter, second quarter. If you are unable to deal with it, you're off.
The Intercity STC company, after halting its operations on the Kumasi-Accra route, worsened its debt stock, losing its viability. For the new head of operations of the company, Victor Ananifrimpong, STC's current plight is as a result of its initial non-profit making objective.
You see, STC has a lot of debts in the past because it was being run not with the aim of making profit. Fuel, they were not paying. Buses, they just run them and it gets spoiled with the hope government will bring, like Metromas. But those type of transport trends cannot be sustained. So now the government cannot continue to do that. We must run transport with the aim of generating revenue to pay ourselves and to buy more. I think that one of the cardinal or one of the critical issues that continues to run STC inefficiently is because STC must break away from running all routes without regard to how profitable is the route is. For me, that is one of the cardinal issues. And that is what I would want to ensure, that when we have fleets, that will be our primary objective.
He also agrees with arguments that the operational turf war between the company's shareholders, SNIT, and government over its management and control also played a role. Vanef, a private entity who took over the company some time back, according to Victor Ananifrimpong, had good management principles, including a stringent performance monitoring system, which he intends to reintroduce to avoid any case of mismanagement. Abigail Adumakwenchi for Joy News. Meanwhile, State Pension Trust SNIT says it is not satisfied with the operations of the Intercity STC Company Limited and is therefore planning to reduce its shares to 26% from 80%. Head of Corporate Affairs Evangeline Amegashi told Joy News SNIT is only awaiting government's approval to sell its stake in Intercity STC. SNIT says the move forms part of a current restructuring in the investment portfolios.
Unfortunately, we are not too satisfied with both the financial and managerial aspect of ISTC. That is why we sought the Board of Trustees of SNIT's approval to reduce our equity shares from 80% to about 26%. our government is maintaining its 20% shares. If we decide to leave entirely, it might not be too good. But because we have to invest the money though, because already for social security, always we have to invest diverse. Social security investment is very dynamic. We can't stay static. When it's not good here, we have to make sure wherever we are going, the yield is good, it's liquidity, it's all there. Whenever we want to call for our money, we can always get it.
She added that SNET continued to offset the debts of the Intercity STC company and has so far paid 25.58 million cedis of STC's debt, which stood at 45 million cedis as at October 2012.
So far, we have sunk about 41.63 million Ghana cedis in STC. 2001, we paid 5.89 million Ghana cedis. Then in March 2012, we paid 1.449 million Ghana cedis to settle 50% pre-incorporation expenses. Then we also paid 8.709 million Ghana cedis later to settle the SAVNI debt. We have paid 3 tranches of money to them, and we cannot continue to be putting money somewhere that we are not. No dividends have been received, so we cannot continue to do that, because we have to make sure that we invest properly and make sure we get our money's worth to pay the pensions.
She added that the decision would soon be reached on the timelines to bring in a strategic investor after evaluation of the company, and therefore asked officials of the Intercity STC company to cooperate with them. Abigail Adumakwenchi for Joy News.
And that'll be all for business. I'm Abigail Adumakwenchi. Sports is up next.
Let's talk about sports now, definitely. And the official bank of the Black Stars, Unibank Ghana Limited, has launched a special package for customers and football fans. Help galvanize support for the Black Stars, which is making its 3rd successive appearance at the World Cup. The launch of the Unibank's Let's Go Brazil promotion was launched in Accra today. Head of Marketing and Public Relations at Unibank, Richard Osei Anani, and the Chief Executive Officer of the bank, Philip Nyakopong, spoke on the modalities and how fans can win big.
You just have to deposit only 100 Ghana cedis. Immediately you do the deposit, you would receive an e-coupon. You are entitled to deposit a multiple of them. So you make a deposit of 500. With 500, you'll be entitled to enter into any of the 3 draws. Unibank is ready. The boarding gate is ready. You need a visa from Unibank, and we'll send you to Brazil. We want all to know that the preserve of the Black Stars for yours truly, Unibank. And we know our 3-year deal covering the 2.5 million Ghana cedis will indeed go a long way.
All right, so we're still gathering the momentum for the World Cup. We'll see how all of that goes now. Let's talk a bit about football here in the country. And Premier League giants Asante Kotoko are set to engage striker Yaya Mohammed in a heated legal battle after the striker signed a pre-contract with Libyan side Al Ittihad Tripoli. The club insists Yaya Mohammed failed to notify them before making that move.
Are primed to take legal action against Yaya Mohammed for signing for another club without their consent. The 25-year-old has entered into a pre-contract agreement with Libyan club Ittihad Tripoli. The Ghana striker signed the agreement under the Bosman rule, which allows players with less than 6 months left on the existing deal to open talks with interested clubs. Yaya qualifies in this bracket as his current deal with the Ghanaian Giants expires at the end of the current season. He can, however, not conclude talks with a third party without the consent of the parent club of the player in question. Kotoko Chief Opokunti has indicated the club is considering all avenues with regards to the laws before proceeding to the next line of action. Yaya Mohammed demanded 50,000 Ghana cedis to sign a 2-year extension with Kotoko. Negotiations were, however, not concluded until he left with the Ghana squad for the CHAN tournament hosted by South Africa.
All right, so time to talk about your day 2 of the round of 16 matches played in the UEFA Champions League. And tonight I can tell you a Ghanaian is in real action. Michael Essien is starring for AC Milan. We'll be telling you about how the story is going so far. First halves have ended and we are now in the second half. Let's first of all talk about the story that's on everybody's mind. Arsenal up against Bayern Munich. So there we have it. A lot going to this game. Of course, you know Arsenal's form getting into all of this. It's been interesting talking about Arsenal and Bayern Munich because there's been a run, or a rush of blood certainly, because of the cards that have come into all of this. 2 penalties have actually been in this game. None of them have been converted. That's the first point for you there again. And you have a red card. Szczesny is out of it for Arsenal. So they are playing a man less, and you can just feel that maybe Bayern Munich would definitely get a chance to go ahead and get the all-important win here at the Emirates. But this game is currently on. There's a second half. We'll find out what happens there. Very interesting there. Now let's get into this game between AC Milan and Atletico Madrid. Atletico Madrid have been in some interesting form. You want to look at what they're doing in the Spanish League and as well in the Champions League. So coming into this game, they had all the plaudits. But here we have the Ghanaian blood flowing very much. Michael Essien is in the thick of things with Ricardo Montalivo for AC Milan. The scoreline at the moment is goalless. 2 yellow cards, and it just shows you what's happening. There's 1 yellow card though for AC Milan. So for tonight's game, everything is in the balance, and we'll definitely be following all of this and be finding out what happens there. I'm not too sure where you find yourself in all of this. That'll be all for sports tonight. My name is George Adi Jr. Israel will join us with some more. You have a good night.
Sports for the 2014 World Music Awards have started, with several artists across the globe shortlisted for nominations in various categories. Ghana, however, is represented by Efia and Fuse ODG in the World's Artist category, female and male respectively. We run through our top stories. Acute water shortage hits part of Accra, forcing some residents to depend on boreholes. Some residents of Ajay Kojo affected by recent demolitions vowed to stay put on the bare land until court ruling on their dispute with Tema Development Corporation. Electoral Commission postpones district-level elections slated for October, citing delay in release of funds. New Patriotic Party clears 5 previously disqualified aspirants in national executive election race, but yet to decide on Paul Afoko. And government optimistic about plans to get the country a new flag carrier. That's all for the bulletin. My name is Israel Lai. Have a good evening.